In this video we're doing our third and final part of the beginner's guide. Now the first part covered the tutorial section of the game. The second part got you into the training area and started to do a few missions and things, and this third and final part will be looking at equipment and ships and thinking about leaving the training area. Just want to say thanks for all your kind words on the previous videos, it's very much appreciated. Okay, on to part 3. So what I just want to briefly touch on is, you see these systems with kind of symbols above them. Now what these are is 10 systems that are part of the training area. So once you go to a system outside the training area, you won't be able to return ever again. Now I suggest getting your money up at this point and practicing the game, because the training area does make it a lot easier. You won't find so much combat there, plus the rebuy costs are much lower. So only think about leaving the training area when you feel you're happy. As you start progressing through the training area, you'll come across this mission called Exploring the Galaxy. Now I would only take this mission on when you're happy to leave the training area for good, as you won't be able to return. The mission will keep coming up, so don't worry about it. So just bear that in mind. I just wanted to include a note about that at this stage so it doesn't catch you unaware. Okay, so let's have a look at outfitting, which is on the far right under ship services. Now what this allows us to do is to customize our ship. So every ship in Elite and Dangerous can be customized through outfitting. Outfitting itself is broken into different categories. So at the very top we have our hard points. Now this is where we fit our weapons, anything from beam lasers to multi-cannons and so forth. However, in this video I'm not really going to cover weapons too much, as they're a big subject in themselves. So our next category is utility amounts. So this is where we put in various external equipment on our ship. Next we have our core internals. So these are modules that are vital to the ship. These include things like power plants, armor and so forth, things that you can't completely remove. You can upgrade them of course, but you can't remove them. So next we have optional internals. So these are things that you can install on the ship or completely remove them. This allows you to customize your ship a lot. Next we have the livery. So this allows us to change the ship's paint jobs, decals and things like that. And finally the stored modules. So you may have had things that you didn't want to sell, and you can actually store them on this station. Okay, that's a quick run through of the various sections, so let's have a look at them in more detail. So if we take hard points first, you can see we have 2 weapons installed. These are both pulse lasers. Okay, so let's have a quick look at this section. As you can see, we've got our 2 weapons listed. To the left of that we have a number, so this tells you the hardpoint size. So 1 means a small, 2 would be medium, 3 would be large and 4 would be huge. To the right of that we have the name of the weapon, so it's a 1G pulse laser brackets loaned. This means it is a class 1 by the 1 signified at the start. G is the variant of so. So the name is pulse laser, so that's what it actually is, and you'll notice it says brackets loan. That just purely means if we sell the weapon we won't get any money for it. To the right we have some detailed statistics for those who are interested in knowing exactly all the details on this weapon. So that's a very quick look at hard points or weapons. I can go into a lot more detail in a future video, but I don't want to do that in this video. So the next category is our utility mounts, and as you can see here we've got 2 again. The same thing with the number at the left hand side signifies the size. Here you can see that you can fit in chaff launchers or shield boosters. Now again, I don't want to get into that at this stage, and it's not something that you should worry about too much at the moment. The next thing to have a look at is our core internals. So these are modules that we cannot completely remove from the ship as they are vital. However, we can upgrade them. So the first one here is a bulkhead, which is basically our armor. Now this is something I wouldn't worry about at this stage. So our next core system is our reactor. So this supplies power to the ship. So if we have a look at the reactor in a little bit more detail, you can see it supplies a 6.4 megawatts worth of power. Now at the bottom in the middle you can see a little kind of line graph showing you how much power we need when we have all our hardpoints retracted or then deployed. So it just gives you a rough indication of how much power. With the reactor you want enough power, but you don't need loads of it that you don't really use. So in this example you can see that we've got plenty of power and we've not gone crazy over the top. So on to our next core internal module, which is our thrusters. Now these affect how fast you can turn, your top speed and your boost in normal space. Thrusters have no effect in supercruise or hyperspace jumps, they purely affect in normal space. However, the most probably important subsystem of all of these is your frameshift drive. Your frameshift drive gives you the ability to jump between different systems. Obviously, the better the frameshift drive, the more range you will get. You can see your range at the bottom here. So we have a minimum, a current and maximum range. So the minimum would be the ship at its heaviest with all the cargo on board. The current range is what we've got at the moment, and our maximum would be the ship at its lightest. So just keep an eye on them three different values when you upgrade your frameshift drive. So our next core internal module is our life support. So this provides air to our cockpit so we can breathe. So next is our power distributor. So what this does is assign power to various different parts of our ship. So the power distributor distributes power into three main areas. Those are your weapons, your engines and your systems. Now weapons are basically those what are on your hard points. Your engines are your thrusters, and your systems is basically your shields and anything else. So each area has two statistics attached to it. One's capacity, the other is recharge. Capacity determines how much you can store of that, and the recharge rate determines how quickly it replenishes. On to our next important system, which is our sensors. So these give you the ability to scan around us, as indicated on this stat here. So you can see this scanner will give us 8-kilometer range around us. This is used in normal space only. The last important core internal module, which is the fuel tank. So this is basically where all our fuel is stored for our jumps and to keep our ship powered. So that's the last core internal module. Let's have a look at the optional. So these are ones that we can change however we like. What I mean is these are completely removable and you can change them however you like. Like the other sections, you can see a number on the far left. Now this gives you an idea of the class or size of module you can fit in here. So here you can see I've highlighted a class 2. So this ship here has two class 2s, as you can see. In these slots we can fit things like cargo racks, flight assistants, fuel scoops, hull reinforcements, vehicle hangars, refineries, shield generators, etc. So underneath that you notice we have 4 class 1 slots. You can see here I've got a couple of cargo racks and an advanced docking computer. So pretty much the same thing, but they're just class 1 slots, so they're not quite as big. At the very bottom you notice a planetary approach suite. Now I would just leave this alone because this allows you to fly on planets. To me this shouldn't really be in the optional internals, but anyway. Next we have our livery. So this is where we can change the ship somewhat with paint jobs, change some of the kind of weapon colours, engine colour as example. A lot of these you'll have to actually buy from the store. So you can get things from the store with the in-game currency, or you can buy them for real money. Now I'm not a big fan of this, to be honest. So that is a look at outfitting. This is used to upgrade the ship. However, at this stage we have another option. So instead of upgrading this ship, we could look at buying a new one. So if we head into the shipyard, which is just underneath outfitting. So if we click it and head into the shipyard, we should see the various ships on offer. As this is the training area, we won't have all the ships available. So the first ship we have for sale is the Sidewinder. That is the ship we're currently using. Next we have an Eagle. Then we have a Hauler, an Adder, and a Viper Mark III. Now those various ships have their own characteristics and they're good for different purposes. So the Sidewinder is a good general all-round ship, good for training. Next we have the Eagle, which is a little bit faster than the Sidewinder. It does offer a third hard point. However, at this point I wouldn't really look at these ships for combat, so I would advise probably skipping over the Eagle if you can. So after the Eagle we have the Hauler. So this is your kind of first trading ship. It loses a bit of firepower for cargo space. It also isn't as particularly fast, but it does have a little bit better jump range on it. Kind of think of this as a white van man delivering sort of parcels or so forth. It's quite capable of doing stuff, but it's not as good as some of the big ships. So next we have the Adder, which is another kind of general purpose ship. It kind of has the combat capabilities of the Eagle mixed with the cargo possibilities of the Hauler, so you get the best of both worlds. So this is probably the ship I would suggest to buy if you're going to buy a new ship, as it's a general purpose ship and it's a bit bigger than the Sidewinder, giving you a lot more possibilities. And finally we have the Viper Mark III. Now this is a very fast attack ship and is something I wouldn't necessarily recommend going for, as it doesn't really come with many internal compartments to allow you to have a lot of cargo space. So I would suggest heading back to the adder and to purchase one. So if you do choose to buy a new ship, we'll come up with this screen here. So we can either store the Sidewinder or we can exchange it. Now I would advise just exchanging it, because the Sidewinder is a ship that you're not going to use later on necessarily, and if you do want a Sidewinder you can buy them for pretty cheap at 32,000 credits, and the exchange might just give you some extra credits towards the new ship. So just basically select that option and it will ask you, are you sure, just to confirm. So if you do decide to buy a new ship, you will get something like this if you buy an adder. As you can see, the cockpit looks very much different than before. The ship is a bit bigger, so you do actually get an extra seat, and you can see this on the far left. To me it does look a little bit nicer internally, apart from the cockpit, which can get a little bit in the way, but it's not too bad. However, sometimes a new ship can feel a little bit underwhelming, especially when an older ship was equipped with more stuff. So head into your outfitting section and have a look in there. So you can see here we come with 2 pulse lasers, which are class 1, and the class 2 slot there is empty. I advise, if you were equipping this for combat, is to put, say, a pulse in the medium slot, then 2 multi-cannons in the class 1 slots. Since we're in the training area, we shouldn't come into much combat, so I wouldn't necessarily worry about weapons at this stage. It's something you will have to do later on, and probably something I need to cover it in a later video. However, the main thing you probably want to upgrade straight away is your frameshift drive. So if you head into your core internals and come down to frameshift drive, you can see at the moment we have a 3E, which is pretty bad. So let's have a look and see what we can buy. So the best we got here is a 3D. So you can see we went from 9.3 light years on our current range to 11.4. So this will make getting around to places a little bit easier. You could decide to upgrade some of this other stuff here, but you'll probably find you're not too bad off for things like power plant, etc., because you can see here we've got enough. You could put in something like a 3D, which is a little bit lighter and would mean you get a little bit more range, but it's not really worth it in my opinion at the moment. Probably what you need to do now is have a look in the optional internals. So you probably noticed that we've got some different optional internals. I would advise going down to the bottom and making sure you've got an advanced docking computer installed, as you're probably not too confident with docking at this stage, and that makes life a lot easier. However, for the Super Cruise Assist, as I showed you in part 2, I wouldn't necessarily say you need it. So you could sell this to get an extra class 1 slot. If you really don't feel like doing Super Cruise and you're really used to the assist, you could keep it on the ship, but I would advise you to kind of do Super Cruise yourself. It isn't that technical. Okay, if we head back up to the top, these 2 class 3 slots, if you notice the first class 3 slot has a 2E cargo rack installed rather as opposed to a class 3. So this is only giving us a capacity of 4 in this slot. So let's upgrade this. So we go into the shop, cargo racks, and if we look at a 3E, we get a capacity of 8. So that means we can store an extra 4 tons of cargo on the ship just changing this cargo rack. So let's exchange it. So the money we sell from the previous one we get off of this one, and you can see now the cargo space has gone up. So underneath we have a couple more slots actually, and I would advise, if you're not too sure what to do with them slots, is just to put cargo racks in them. It's a very quick way of filling them extra slots up and gives you a bit more cargo. I guess this really depends on what you plan on doing. I'm probably guessing you're going to do more missions from the bulletin board, so the cargo racks will allow you to take on bigger missions. So if you look just down the bottom here, you can see your cargo space, which now is at 18 tons, which is a lot bigger than a Sidewinder. So what I advise at this point now is to go and try your new ship, have a bit more of a practice and see how you get on, and then when you're ready, think about taking on that mission. Another thing I want to just add at this point is never fly without enough money to cover your insurance or your rebuy. If you do, you'll be unlikely to buy your ship back and you'll end up going back to a sidewinder. Also bear in mind that the rebuy costs are much lower in the training area, so when you do decide to leave it, recheck to make sure you've got enough money to cover it. So at this point, after a bit of time, when you feel happy, think about taking on the Exploring the Galaxy mission. This will take you out of the training area and you won't be able to come back. Over 100,000 credits should help you on your travels. So I think that's going to pretty much conclude the beginner's guide part 3. Now the first part looked at completing the tutorial mission, the second part got you into the training area and completed your first mission, the third part is to do with outfitting and ships and finally take you away from the training area, and like I said, you won't be able to return. So if you did like the video or series of videos, please drop us a like and consider subscribing to the channel. That always helps me out massively. As always, your comments are always welcome below. Maybe somebody might have the same question or I've missed something, so just drop it below. I think that's it for this one. Take care and have fun out there.